Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom, and it's our News Watch unit for the month of November. It also just happens to be our all-English unit. I was getting kind of tired of having to stop and let the Chinese teacher come in and say things. I want to say everything. Yeah. I want us to speak totally in English. Of course, I'm kidding there.
Yeah.
But this article today is going to be explained totally in English without the crutch of Chinese. So pay extra attention as we talk about a couple of news stories that we think are kind of interesting. One is about a really old tree in Chile, and another one is about something called flip phones. Maybe you know what those are.
I do, because I'm old enough to have used a flip phone. Actually, this has been a discussion in the news lately. Not the news, just, in public conversations. People are talking about how they want to get away from their smartphones. People are kind of addicted to them. It's causing the younger generation to become depressed because they're always checking to see how many likes they got or what one of their friends is doing. So maybe get back to a time when we didn't have so much technology. Also, you should know that you're being tracked on your smartphone. So if you don't want to be tracked, leave it at home or get one of these old-fashioned flip phones. We're going to talk about it.
Well, that's nice to know, but I think there are enough surveillance cameras out there, and Big Brother knows what we're doing pretty much all the time. But still, it's a point well taken. Smartphones can be causing problems, and maybe you would consider using a flip phone, which we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. But let's dive right in and talk about that old tree and flip phones by listening to our article read from top to bottom. Chile's great-grandfather could be the oldest tree alive. In the heart of the Los Rios region of southern Chile, an enormous tree fondly known as the great-grandfather holds court. With an impressive height of 28 meters, roughly the same as a 9-story building and a sturdy 4-meter thick trunk, this remarkable cypress is believed to have been standing for over 5,000 years. If this fact is proven true, this tree will snatch the title of the world's oldest living tree from Methuselah, a 4,850-year-old tree in California, U.S. The great-grandfather is now a tourist attraction, with people walking an hour to take photos alongside it. Its growing fame means additional protection is required to ensure its preservation. The importance of preserving such ancient trees cannot be overemphasized. They are living monuments that have endured for thousands of years and can provide insights into our planet's climatic shifts. Their growth rings can tell tales of wet and dry years and even record significant events such as fires and earthquakes. By protecting these ancient trees, we're securing a key that unlocks the mysteries of Earth's past.
Why flip phones are making a comeback. In the U.S., an unexpected trend among Generation Z is emerging. Flip phones, once a 1990s staple, are making a dramatic comeback. This revival has been endorsed by celebrities, including singer Camila Cabello and actress Dove Cameron. They embrace the simplicity of these antique devices and share their experiences on social media. The reason for this switch isn't just about style. It's also about mental health. Psychologists have observed that the constant use of smartphones and engagement with social media can lead to increased levels of depression among teenagers. Dove Cameron explained in an interview how she felt overwhelmed after spending too much time on her smartphone, which prompted her to choose a simpler device. Sharing a similar sentiment, some teenagers have swapped their smartphones for flip phones to disconnect from the digital realm and minimize digital stress. Thanks to this throwback technology, people can strike a healthier balance between staying connected and maintaining mental peace.
Okay, everybody, it's time for us to discuss the contents of today's lesson. We're going to talk about our first news story, and it's entitled, Chile's Great-Grandfather Could Be could be the oldest tree alive. Now, in South America, we've got this country called Chile. That's how we pronounce it in English, but if you're speaking their native language of Spanish, you'd say Chile. So it kind of depends on how you want to pronounce this. That's that country in South America that's really long, stretching from way up north all the way down south. The capital is Santiago. And they've got a really old tree there called the great-grandfather, and it could be the oldest tree alive in the world.
Yeah, I wanted to see what it looked like before I got here today, so I looked it up online. And there was an article that came up on my search engine that said the 5 oldest trees that we know of on Earth. Well, this is one of them, and it may be taking the first place in this long list of old trees. Kind of cool. I love trees, just generally. So we're going to talk about Chile's great-grandfather. That's the name they've actually given to this tree, a great-grandfather. So where is it located? It's in the heart of the Los Rios region of southern Chile. Now, if you're in the heart of a place, guys, it just means you're in the center. You're in the core of some place. The heart of most families is the mom. Dad is also important, but everything kind of circulates around mom usually. So the heart of this region has this enormous tree. If you look at the pictures, you'll be stunned. It's huge.
Right. And, of course, your great-grandfather is your father's father's father, I believe. And that's what this tree is called. And Los Rios is the region that just means the rivers region of southern Chile. And again, it's known as the great-grandfather, and that's where it holds court. That's kind of an interesting phrase there.
Yeah.
When you hold court, that means you're a judge in a trial, and you're kind of supervising the trial, and you're higher than everybody else. So if you hold court, that means you're kind of standing there higher than everybody else, and everybody else respects you.
We use it for kings and queens as well. So if you're holding court, as Tom said, you're the one with all the power, and everybody's kind of bending their knee to you. They're kneeling. They're giving you honor. This is a pretty spectacular tree, so I give it credit. I think it can hold court.
Certainly, and with an impressive height of 28 meters, roughly the same size or the same height as a 9-story building, and a sturdy 4-meter thick trunk, this remarkable cypress is believed to have been standing for over 5,000 years. This is a long sentence, but it gives us a lot of information about this tree. First of all, it has an impressive height of 28 meters. That is impressive. You will be awed by the height when you see it. And that's roughly the same height as a 9-story building. So there are plenty of 9-story buildings in Taiwan all over the place. So just to look for one, and then you'll know how tall this tree is. That's pretty darn tall. It's also got a sturdy 4-meter thick trunk. The trunk is the main part of a tree, the thickest part of a tree. And in this particular case, it's 4 meters thick. It's 4 meters from one side to the other. That is darn big, darn thick.
I wanted to mention there's something kind of interesting in English. It's a little weird. When you're talking about different levels in a building, you can't use them interchangeably. You can't say a 9-floor building. That just sounds weird to us. You have to use story. You also wouldn't say, yeah, my company's located on the 2nd story of this building. We just say floor in that case. So sorry about that. It gets a little crazy. But here it's an adjective. It's a 9-story building with 9 floors, which is really, really tall for a tree, I think. And as Tom said, it has a sturdy 4-meter thick trunk. If something's sturdy, it's really tough. It's solid. It's hard to damage it or destroy it. So this is a tree that's been pretty tough over the years, especially when you come to find out how old they think it is.
Right, I could say the building is very sturdy, so it can withstand a typhoon when it passes through. And so this tree will be very difficult to knock over because it has that sturdy trunk. and it's believed to have been standing for over 5,000 years. They've done some research on the tree. Maybe they've done some carbon dating or whatever, and they think that this tree is over 5,000 years old, almost as old as China. And if this fact is proven true, this tree will snatch the title of the world's oldest living tree from Methuselah, a 4,850-year-old tree in California, United States. So currently, a lot of people believe that the tallest tree in the world, or rather the oldest tree in the world, is in California, and it's called Methuselah, which I believe is a name from the Bible. I think it's Noah's father or grandfather or something like that.
He was the oldest man ever. He had a really long life. Yeah, he's in the Old Testament.
He lived about 900 plus years or so.
That's such a great name for a tree. Methuselah. It's kind of weird, but that's how you say it, Methuselah. And that tree there in California was 4,850 years old. Notice here, guys, if we turn this into an adjective and we use those hyphens, you can't say 4,850 years old. When it turns into an adjective with hyphens, it has to be singular. So 4,850-year-old tree. Or I could say I have a 2-day conference this week. I'm not going to say I have a 2 days conference this week. I could say I have a conference for 2 days this week. So be careful with that. That's a common error.
I could say I've got a friend named David, and he's 25 years old, so I could say he's a 25-year-old man, or David is 25 years old. So the usage there switches around a little bit. And the great-grandfather is now a tourist attraction with people walking an hour to take photos alongside it. So I guess if you want to see this tree, you've got to take a little bit of a hike from the main road.
Yeah.
It will take you 1 hour, but some people think it's worth it because you can take photos alongside the tree. You can stand next to it and post those pictures on social media, and all your friends will be very impressed.
Yeah. If it's cool, people are willing to do a little work to see it. And this sounds like a pretty wonderful tree to go look at. But it is becoming more and more popular, and we've seen things in Taiwan that have been damaged by tourism. So they're trying to protect this old great-grandfather tree. Its growing fame means additional protection is required to ensure or make sure its preservation, or required to ensure its preservation, or required to ensure it's preserved. You could also say to preserve something just means you want to keep it safe from harm, from injury, from being damaged. You want to protect it or spare it from being hurt. So fame means you're famous, right? So a lot of people, more and more people are hearing about this great-grandfather tree. And of course, if you're, traveling to Chile, you want to go see that while you're there. Why miss that particular tourist attraction? But they're going to have to do something to protect it from all those people, all those hands. And hopefully, Tom, no one's taking a knife and carving into the trunk.
Carving their initials into the trunk, that is a big no-no, but unfortunately, people still do that.
Yeah, they do.
So that's why this tree requires preservation, which means protection, especially if we talk about natural resources. We can talk about, forest preservation, protecting our forests and things like that so that they don't get chopped down by poachers. And moving on to the next paragraph here, it says, the importance of preserving such ancient trees cannot be overemphasized. Some people might think we're going overboard with talking about preservation of these trees,
No.
but it can't be overemphasized. It's very important for various reasons. They are living monuments that have endured for thousands of years and can provide insights into our planet's climatic shifts. A monument, of course, is usually in a city, and it's a structure made by humans to commemorate something. There's the Lincoln Memorial, which is kind of a monument to Abraham Lincoln, or there's the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. There are probably monuments here in Taiwan as well. But in this particular case, we're saying that the tree is really big, and it sort of represents the history of trees in the world. And it's very important, and it can give us some insights into our planet's history. Insight, of course, is some kind of special information that only a few people know, and, of course, only a few people can find out about.
Yeah, insight's one of those special words that can either be non-count or countable. Here, we're making it countable. They're both fine here, you could say, and can provide insight into our planet's climatic shifts. So you can use either one. We do have a couple of words like this, but yeah, just pick the one you want. So insights, as Tom said, is just you have more of a deep understanding of something, or you are told some information and you seem to take it into yourself at a deeper level than some people around you. Insight. I love friends who have a lot of insight into life in general. Those are the people I want to hang around. So this can tell us a lot about the climate changes or the shifts that the tree has experienced over thousands of years. We know, and it wasn't because of people, the climate has changed a lot. So it used to be mostly frozen, and now it's heating up a little, and it may turn around and be cold again for all we know. Their growth rings, those are those cool rings. If you chop down the tree and you look at the trunk, they can examine what the tree has gone through by looking at the growth rings. And it can tell them if they had a wet year or if they had a dry year. Anything natural takes care of itself. So it's going to try to preserve itself. It won't grow as much in a dry year. But if it has a wet year, it gets lots of growth there. So it can even record significant events like fires and earthquakes.
Or volcanic eruptions. Of course, some chemicals will accumulate in the rings, and they can detect it, and they can tell what was going on at a certain time in history. And by protecting these ancient trees, we're securing a key that unlocks the mysteries of Earth's past. So yes, we need to preserve and protect these ancient trees, and by doing so, we can make sure that we have some information that can tell us about the past of the Earth, that can unlock those mysteries. Yeah, what really happened during the Ice Age thousands of years ago? Maybe that tree can tell us something. And my question is, though, how do you get information from the tree rings if you don't cut it down? I guess maybe you can take some core samples or something like that. I'm not quite sure how they do it without actually killing the tree. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in today's lesson. Let's take a break now, but stay tuned. We'll be right back with our next news story.
Welcome back, guys. It's our News Watch, and it's all English today. No Chinese teacher, and we're supposed to stick strictly to English, although sometimes Chinese comes out.
Or some other language like Los Rios, which is Spanish, but we couldn't help that because it was part of the article.
And today we actually have one of the singers we're going to talk about, a celebrity. She is from a Spanish-speaking background, so her name is also Spanish. Camila Cabello. See, I can't even do it. Okay, we're going to first look at the title here, though. Why flip phones are making a comeback. We're going to answer that question. Why are they making a comeback? A comeback means that something that was once popular and then faded, it's popular just kind of went away. People just didn't think it was so cool anymore. Suddenly, it comes back into style, comes back into fashion. That's a comeback.
Yeah, I think that actor Brandon Fraser, is that the guy? I can't remember his name correctly, but he kind of disappeared for a while.
Because he got really fat and old.
Right, and people didn't want to cast him in movies, but he made a recent comeback, and he's popular again. And in case you don't know, flip phones are the old cell phones that only could be used to make a phone call or send text messages. And then when you wanted to put it in your bag, you could flip it closed, and that's why they're called flip phones. And of course, when you want to use it, you flip it open.
Yeah, there is no internet connection on a flip phone. You could actually turn off your internet on your phone, But,
no one wants
that?
to do that. Yeah, of course you want to, get all your information like all your friends are getting. But in any case, it's an unexpected trend among Generation Z, and that's emerging. It's coming forth. It's getting popular. Of course, we talk about different people and their different ages, and they belong to different generations. The young people now come from Generation Z, and before that were the millennials, and then Generation X, and then was it the lost generation after the baby boomers, etc. There are all sorts of different generations.
Kind of names for them. If you're in Generation Z, guys, it means you're born between the years of 1990 and 2010. So we've got a lot of kids out there, a lot of young adults who were born during that time period. So Generation Z, I would say like they're in their 20s right now. They're really kind of rethinking their smartphones and always being attached to the internet. Do they really want that? Well, they're a 1990s staple. If something's a staple, it's part of daily life. We often use that word staple to talk about a particular region's basic diet. For example, in Asia, rice, of course, is one of the staples in the diet here. Well, these phones were a staple in the 1990s. I had one. I don't know if you had one, Tom.
Yeah, I had all sorts of cell phones,
kind
different
of
models, and not all of them were flip phones. Some of them were just straight phones. That did not flip open. They were already open. You could lock the keyboard so you wouldn't accidentally make a call.
But it would make that cool noise, right? When someone flipped it shut. I remember I didn't have a flip phone, and I thought, I want one of those, because you'd see them in the movies and on TV, and everybody looked cool when they go and flip it closed.
Yeah, I think my flip phone was a Motorola, which you don't see around too much anymore. But I
still have one.
Oh, you still have it?
Yeah.
I've kept my old ones, too. I don't really know what to do with them.
I know.
Hey, maybe I could sell them for a price if these people are interested in buying them. And they're making a dramatic comeback, a big comeback. And this revival has been endorsed by celebrities, including singer Camila Cabello and actress Dove Cameron. To endorse something means to give something your approval, especially if you're famous. Of course, we've got product endorsements by celebrities. Of course, every day we see TVs on TV commercials starring famous actresses, usually some pretty model who's endorsing a product. Well, I use this massage chair. You should too. If I like it, you'll like it too.
I know that most of our Generation Z kids out there know that if you're on the internet or you're a social media personality or celebrity, you're called an influencer. So that's the word we use. In Chinese, I'll just say it's Wang Hong, which I learned this week. Somebody told me what it was. So Wang Hong is an influencer. And those people are approached because they've got a lot of followers. They may not be famous movie stars or even singers or performers. Maybe they just have a lot of followers because they post interesting things. Companies will approach them and say, hey, if you show yourself using my product, we'll give you this amount of money. So it's actually, you're watching an ad or a commercial when you watch some of these influencers. They're getting paid big bucks to actually, show or endorse this particular product.
That kind of backfired for Bud Light, but that's another story. And again, we've got these celebrities who are endorsing flip phones. They embrace the simplicity of these antique devices and share their experiences on social media. If something's antique, it's 100 years old or more. But here, of course, the flip phones are not that old, but of course, we're talking about technology that just keeps changing all the time. So it does seem that flip phones are antiques from centuries ago, even though they're only about 20 or 30 years old.
Yeah, you might go to a store and maybe they say that they're antiques. My mom was always shopping for antiques. And so if it was a really good store, you had to have the proof that it was at least 100 years old. But nowadays, people just use it to say it's old. And it's usually collectible if it's antique. It brings back good memories for people if they have some of these things that they want to pick up. The reason for this switch from smartphones to flip phones isn't just about style, it's about mental health. This is kind of serious. So psychologists, people who help people with mental health problems, they have observed or noticed that the constant use of smartphones and engagement with social media like FB and IG and all of those social media platforms, they can lead to increased levels of depression, or you just feel bad about life. You don't have any hope. And it's happening among our teenagers.
Yep, your friends are getting more likes than you are, so you probably feel bad about yourself, so that can cause depression, and this is a problem among teenagers. Well, Dove Cameron explained in an interview how she felt overwhelmed after spending too much time on her smartphone, which prompted her or encouraged her to choose a simpler device. Indeed, I think people spend way too much time on their smartphones, but my goodness, there's so much information out there, and we've just got to keep up, because if we don't keep up, then we're going to be behind our friends and we're going to lose out. And she felt overwhelmed. She just thought it was TMI, too much information. So she kind of zoned out a little bit. She dropped out and she started using a simpler device, a flip phone, which again only has a couple of functions. You can only make phone calls, or you can send text messages and you don't have internet access.
Yeah, I was talking to Tom. I was telling him I saw a piece of news that the country of Norway has now banned these influencers from retouching their photos. You know, that can be depressing for just normal people like us. You look at these photos and wow, their body's perfect. They have no flaws, which is depressing for young girls, especially, even for some guys. So, yeah, it's you need to remember that they have lots of flaws, but they're fixing their photos to take those flaws away. So, sharing a similar sentiment, some teenagers have also decided they want to swap their smartphones for flip phones, and that will allow them to disconnect from the digital realm or world. When you have a sentiment about something, it just means you have an attitude about something, a view of a particular situation. That's your opinion. And so a lot of these kids are going, yeah, I need to fix my life. I feel a little down. So if you swap things, you exchange things. What does that mean to you, to swap, Tom?
It just means to trade. So they're using smartphones and they decided not to use them anymore and instead use flip phones. I would maybe even take it one step further and start using beepers, or maybe even walkie-talkies, or even sending messages by carrier pigeon. Yeah, how far do you want to go with this? But in any case, yes, flip phones are being exchanged for smartphones, or the other way around, actually. And so they're putting their smartphones down for a while. Eventually, they're going to realize that they just can't live without those smartphones. But I appreciate their efforts. At least they're trying. And yes, they're going to disconnect from the digital realm and minimize digital stress. A realm is just an area of the digital world that we're all a part of. We've all got a presence online, and people are watching us and checking out our posts and things like that. It would probably be very difficult to 100% disengage from the digital world. And of course, they want to minimize digital stress. If you minimize something, you make it as low as possible. People do have stress or pressure because of our digital world, and they just want to disconnect.
Yeah, so minimize, you want to reduce something. You know, I was thinking back years ago before we had smartphones. Your work wouldn't call you at night. You'd go home from work and you'd have dinner with your family, and they couldn't text you. They wouldn't email you. If they really wanted you, they'd have to call you on the phone, and they just weren't willing to go that far. But now it's so easy. I'll just text them. Maybe they can just answer a quick text, or maybe they'll just, read a quick email. But when you go home, you really need to disengage, disconnect, relax. That stress is killing us. It's making a lot of people sick. So think about it. Think about how you can reduce your time on your smartphone and re-engage with real life. Go out to dinner with your friends and don't take your phones. How would that be?
That's easier said than done. But thanks to this throwback technology, people can strike a healthier balance or have a healthier balance between staying connected and maintaining mental peace. This is throwback technology. In other words, it's retro technology, from the past, and people are trying it out, trying those flip phones. And, of course, I suggested using some other primitive form of technology as well, like beepers and things like that.
He's kidding.
But, of course, I don't think people are willing to make such a big sacrifice like that. Okay, that brings us to the end of our unit for today. We had a couple of interesting news stories there. The great-grandfather tree in Chile and Generation Z trying to use those flip phones again. Thanks for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
And I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.